Hello, Bill.
Hello, Jackie,
Lovely to see you again. Been a while since we've done a talk together.
and
And
yourself.
yeah. So Bill's actually traveling at the minute, but said that he'd be very happy to do another talk about it's German new medicine, but I'll let Bill introduce that and what that means. And yeah, just a bit about you as well, Bill. Thank you.
The German New Medicine is really about looking at causative facts for any ailment. So it's going backwards to the start because we can't fix a symptom at the symptom end. We have to understand the cause. German New Medicine is absolutely gold dust and has been in my life for over 20 years, because it's looking at the cause of every single ailment. And that's a huge call. And you think, no way. But it was Dr. Hamer's lifetime's work. After the tragic loss of his son, Dirk, he was shot by an Italian Prince of Savoy, and he ended up with a health issue himself. And he knew it had to be related to the loss, the tragic loss, an unexpected loss of his son, Dirk. And that's what set him on the journey. And being a physicist and a scientist, he had to prove it as well. And he was also a professor, had a degree in theology before he became a doctor. Around about the same time, actually. He's the youngest ever qualified doctor in Germany at the time. So he started looking into this with some of his colleagues. And at the time, CT scans were just coming out. Siemens, the manufacturer in Germany, had just manufactured the first CT scans. And Dr. Hamer thought, there must be a connection between the mind and the body. There has to be, and the brain and the body. And he said, I can't prove the findings. I've actually got so far interviewing many of his patients in a cancer ward, uh, all to do with ovarian cancer. And all he had to go on at the time was the fact that he had testicular cancer because after the loss of his son, Dirk. And he said, well, there has to be a connection. And he interviewed every single person at length to see if they've lost anyone suddenly and unexpectedly. And that was his criteria that he made up at the time, because that's all he had to go on. And he interviewed every single person, and every single person said, yes, I have. And he guessed at a figure of 2 years beforehand. That's what he came up with. And he thought, well, there has to be a connection here. And why do all these women have suffered? I think it's about 180 plus people he interviewed. And why have they all come up with what he termed a profound loss conflict, profound meaning they're not coming back? And so there has to be a connection. So he started looking at CT scans, and he started looking at them with his radiologist friends and asking them, what's this minuscule little marking in the brain there? And they would say, well, that's an artifact, which means the head moved, or there was a jinx in the machine somewhere. So it's just a little marking. And he kept seeing these, and he thought, what if that's not a malfunction? What if that's something we should know about? And the radiologist said, well, we're trained to just discount them. So he started asking him, so why don't we take another CT scan and see if that minuscule marking is in the same place for the same person? And they were all in the same area of the brain. And it's obviously split into different sections in German New Medicine. So he realized that they weren't artifacts at all. There were commonalities in all the women he interviewed. So he thought, now I can prove what I'm saying, at least in this specific instance. And he spent a weekend with Siemens, the manufacturer of CT scans at the time, and they agreed that it was something different from what they call artifacts. But today in radiology, they're still called artifacts. because radiologists look at the brain CT scan differently from Dr. Hamer and people he's taught since. So basically, our brain controls the organs. Now, these conflict shocks are unexpected events, could be big, could be small, but they're unexpected, that caught someone off guard, unawares, not expecting it, where they felt all alone for a split second. Now, it could be a big trauma, it could be something small, but it's small relatively, but it's really important to that person at that time. Like one lady who was being questioned by Dr. Hamer in the ovarian cancer ward, uh, um, she was the only lady who said, no, I haven't lost anyone suddenly and unexpectedly in the last 2 years. I thought, well, it's either, I'm a physicist, so it's either 100% correct or it's not correct. So I interviewed her again, still blank, nothing. And she came to him a couple of days later. She said, Dr. Hamer, is it just people or is it pets? And Dr. Hamer's a lifetime vegetarian. And he said, I never thought of that, but absolutely. So what did the pet mean to you? It's a great question. So she said, I lost my late husband 10 years ago. And the pet I lost was a yellow canary. And Dr. Hamer said, well, what did that canary mean to you? And she just burst into tears. She said, a present from the late husband to keep me company when he'd gone.
Complete truth chills. I'm chilling
You can
all
feel it,
over.
Jackie, can you?
Absolutely.
So that was the profound loss that she had suffered. That was the last connection with the late husband.
Yeah.
So she kept the late husband's memory alive through the canary.
Wow.
So then he
Fascinating.
started looking at the first 20 years, he just studied cancers, all different types of cancers, finding the cause and the two phases. There's two phases in German medicine. One is when the conflict is still active, like you're having a row with your neighbor next door, and every time you come to the gate, it's all, it's in your mind, you're losing sleep, and it's up here, ruminating, maybe more energy, but less digestion, less appetite. But once you actually manage to resolve or change your perspective on that situation, then you can go to the healing phase. So you separated the symptoms, whether they're conflict active symptoms still ongoing or healing phase symptoms. That was the second biological law. So, and they're the two really, really important ones. And then it goes on to the different layers of the body and the tissue, and the different layers of the brain and how they're all connected. So really, when someone comes to me, I'm looking for either the medical diagnosis, if they have one. I don't send anyone for one, 'cause I'm not a doctor. And so if they've got a medical diagnosis, I'll look at that. But obviously, sometimes mistakes are made. But really, if they don't have a medical diagnosis, they have symptoms. They have a reason why they want to see me or go somewhere else. So I look at the organ, the tissue type, because different organs have different tissue types, controlled by different brain relays, with a different cause and different symptoms. So really that's German new medicine. So I'm starting from the symptom, the diagnosis, going backwards through Dr. Hamer's knowledge to know what type of conflict, say like the top layer of skin, the epidermis, that's a little bit separation, contact, touch, wanted or unwanted. And that could create eczema type symptoms or something like this. Whereas the bones are more about a really deep self-worth conflict, or the lymph or the blood tissue, or even the muscular tissue or tendons, ligaments. They're all about self-worth, but a lesser conflict than the bones, lesser degree. And some digestive issues, they're about anger. Some are about there's a situation that's indigestible, literally. And so every organ and every symptom tells me a different part of the story. I'm always looking for the circumstantial change just before the symptom started and the relationship issue. That's what I'm looking for
This
every
is
single
just,
time.
honestly, I was fortunate enough to meet Bill. Well, it might have been 2 years ago now. Gosh.
Longer than that, Jackie, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And in the New Forest. So there was a friend that somehow found out about German New Medicine and invited Bill to come, and we would go once a month for 6 months. And we would talk about all the different symptoms that we've come across, different things that happen. Something had happened to my son's ankle, and I spoke about that, and Bill went right through the situation and how he has probably worked that out in his brain that it's come out in his ankle. I mean, just absolutely fascinating. So I'm very grateful that you're here today, Bill. And I'm just going to stop the recording a minute.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to let my dog out for a pee. Anyway, we're done now. I've left the back door open.
Tell the truth, Jackie, you had to let me out for a pee.
Yeah, so delighted that, we had that experience of just having an introduction to German New Medicine. And it was just a complete eye-opener for me in all of what we talked about. So I've looked at what the 3 most common ailments for today, but I mean, we can talk about anything, but
Sure.
the 3 most common ailments in the UK, I asked Goggle. And this is what they have said. So the first one is cardiovascular disease. Yeah, this includes heart attacks, stroke, and conditions like coronary artery disease. I don't know if you could do a brief talk on these main ones, Bill.
Sure. There's a few different types of heart attacks. Medicine doesn't always differentiate them, and they tend to blame blocked coronary arteries as the cause of most heart attacks, which is not strictly true. Because the heart attack is initiated from the brain. So the brain, too much to go into it, the brain instigates the loss of the signal as a heart attack. So I'll just touch on a few different types, okay, and the causes and what you could do about them. So as you go with the coronary arteries first, the coronary artery, it depends whether you're male or female, and it depends on someone's hormone level, okay? A woman before the menopause is protected by the estrogen, okay? Because she can't perceive a coronary artery conflict because it's a territory loss conflict. And a feminine woman is not territorial. A masculine man is, or a masculine woman. And there's reasons why a woman can become more masculine, was a contraceptive pill, or been sterilized, or hysterectomy, or on chemo, or been through the menopause. So, but before the menopause and without all those other things, if a woman's more feminine, she's got estrogen, it's okay. So basically, a masculine person can suffer a territory loss. Territory is anything that's important to you, really. Like for you, Jackie, it could be a dog,
It
it could
would
be your
be.
husband,
Yeah.
maybe before somebody in your family, I don't know. So it's your dog. So for any woman, near your dog. So for a man, it may be his car, and maybe his partner. A man is not correct in our society, but a man interprets his partner as his territory. Okay, not in a controlling way, hopefully, but in nature, a biological level, because all our TNM is about biology in nature. Okay, and sadly, in our society, we're pretty far away from nature, especially when we're looking at symptoms and the causes. So we live outside of nature to varying degrees because of our society. So territory loss conflict. Now, if a man's in a territory loss conflict or a masculine person, they will suffer microscopic ulcerations in the coronary arteries. Is to widen the tubes of the coronary arteries to temporarily give that person more energy to regain the territory, whoever or whatever it is, to get it back. And if he can't or doesn't do that within 9 months, and if it's a big territory loss conflict, then it can be quite dangerous, very dangerous in fact, if it resolves after the 9 months. Now, generally speaking, when someone suffers a territory loss conflict, a masculine person, they also suffer another conflict at the same time. Maybe an anger conflict, or maybe a sexual conflict, because the partner may be the sexual partner. So they can suffer 2 conflicts at the same time, which is really, really good in nature as a backup plan, because that will stop any microscopic ulcerations in the coronary arteries. It may make them a little bit unbalanced mentally for a little while, but because there's a conflict in both sides of the brain, specific areas, the coronary arteries and somewhere else, then it's almost like the brain stays roughly in balance, which means there's no conflict load on the organ, there's no more ulcerations, and it's a really good backup plan in nature. Now, there's lots of different ways to go about this. So really, if there's any lost conflict with a man or a masculine person, you want to resolve it sooner rather than later or not at all. Okay? And sometimes it's not best to forgive and make up further down the line, like months and months later. Sometimes it's best to let sleeping dogs lie, as you say, and just diminish how you feel about anger or anything else, or resentment, whatever it is. So that's one type. Now, if someone resolved, or say the man lost his partner and she come back after 2 or 3 months, he could have a minor heart attack that he wouldn't even notice. It probably happened in the early hours of the morning. I wouldn't even notice it, because it'll be a lesser event, so to speak. So that's one type. The other type is a pulmonary embolism, and that is really that sexual conflict for a feminine person or a woman. And that'll include big shortness of breath and different things going on as well. So again, the whole key in understanding German new medicine is to resolve our conflicts sooner rather than later. That's the whole gift of it. So don't leave it too long.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean too long. The longer we leave it, the bigger the healing symptoms. So deal with the stuff sooner rather than later. Don't hang on to stuff. I mean, really, don't hang on to stuff.
It's
Whatever
easy to
happened,
say,
happened.
isn't it? Yeah,
It's
because I
super
mean,
easy
yeah.
because we're humanoids.
And when
Super
you
easy
said
to say.
about if it was a mini heart attack, a minor heart attack, early hours of the morning, and you wouldn't even know, is that right then? So you just carry on and you wouldn't even know that's happened?
Yeah, sleep through it. Yeah.
Well, it's just a disruption to the heart, and then you get over it.
Yeah, and the heart has to reset, has to have the heart attack to complete the healing. The heart attack is a healing crisis, and it usually happens between 3 and 6 weeks after the conflict resolution of the territorial loss conflict. So that's one type. It's not as common because you usually have other conflicts happen at the same time, which balances, um, that stops the symptoms happening at the organ level.
Mm.
But they may have behavior changes. That'll make them more manic and more depressed or something. Could. There's lots of reasons why that could happen as well. So the other type is a myocardial infarct. Sometimes they call them all the same, so it's hard to tell. So really I'm talking about the myocardium, which is the heart muscle. It's not a pump, it's a muscle. It's a vacuum. There's a muscle And the conflict for that is a bit overwhelmed. And that, yeah, and again, it'll be a healing symptom, strangely enough. And it can be quite common when someone's been through a really, really challenging time, whether that's with a health issue or major stress in their life, where they personally felt overwhelmed. And they get to the other side and go, oh, thank goodness. That's where they can get the healing symptoms. And they can get that so-called myocardial infarct. Now, again, when in that conflict of overwhelm, there's minuscule microscopic alterations in the heart tissue itself. Now, the heart also has a compensatory effect where uh, it produces more smooth muscle to compensate for the loss in what they call the striated muscular tissue, the same as our muscles in arms or legs or whatever. So that smooth muscle compensates for that. But this is when someone could get an enlarged heart, say like a sportsman especially, where it's more common. So they have a lot of stress in their profession or their hobby, overwhelm, always pushing, always pushing, always pushing. So, and this is why they can be diagnosed with an enlarged heart. It's okay. It's okay. But if that,
But can I just say, when you talk about symptoms, once you've got symptoms of an ailment, then what you're saying with German new medicine is that showing you're on the road to recovery.
sometimes, most times actually, but not always, most times. Most of our symptoms are healing symptoms.
Mhm.
I would say 70 plus percent, maybe 70, 80%.
Mhm.
And most people's symptoms, especially with the chronic, Jackie, they're hanging, healing. I mean, we get into the conflict, back into the healing, back into the conflict, back into the healing. People take creams or medication to diminish the symptoms. It takes them out of healing, back into the conflict. As soon as we take any pharmaceutical, it takes us out of healing. And as a good doctor said to me many years ago, I said, Bill, pharmaceutical drugs never cure an ailment in their life, but they're really good at suppressing symptoms. I said, yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's life-saving.
Yeah.
So it's not all wrong. It's not all bad, You just got to, you know, everyone to their own. So that's
Balanced
one
in some
type.
way, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a great believer in whatever gets you through the night.
Mhm.
Don't fuss too much about it.
Yeah.
Be more concerned with long term.
I mean, in general, I know with what I do spiritually and with, ascension symptom or whatever they say that is, but our whole trajectory of life is about healing ourselves.
Absolutely.
If that was our main priority, to heal ourselves of everything that's happened in the past, um, we'd be on a pretty good trajectory for the future, wouldn't we?
It's been able to let go to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
It's all in the letting go.
Mm.
Some disciplines we call it surrender, which is not giving in. It's just letting go. It's all about letting go. And
Accepting
really,
as well, accepting that is you and where you are, and
absolutely, we have to meet ourselves where we are.
yeah,
I mean, if there's anyone we want to forgive, it's ourselves, no one else. Because we can't forgive anyone to forgive ourselves. As
absolutely.
you know, Jackie, do the Ho'oponopono.
However,
Um,
is everything about that, which also helps you let go of everything from the past and
the better we feel, the better the body works. So
Mhm.
that's straightforward.
Yes,
So, and we
yes,
can have other type of symptoms, maybe with the heart valves, the self-worth conflict about not good enough, the heart's not good enough, whatever else. So we can have a few different things going on. Same as angina, just means you're hanging in the conflict, back into healing with the territory loss conflict. So just diminish any conflict as soon as we can, not through fear, just because it's good for us.
my husband 10 years ago had a new valve put in. I think it was a cow's valve put into his heart, And they said that should last about 15 years. Well, that was 10 years ago. So he'll be thinking now in 5 years' time, I've got to have another bell. I don't know if that's true, but if he will have to or not. But yeah, that's what
Yeah.
he said at the time.
Yeah, nowadays you use two different types depending on the age of the person. If the person's older, they might use sorry for the vegetarians, the vegans, a pig's valve.
Excellent.
Uh, but if a person's younger, I think they've got titanium valves now. Double checking that, but
Mhm.
that'll last them a lifetime. But they're more expensive, obviously. Um, they don't wear out. So yeah, this side of things, because when the heart valve goes, it's just like that's your seal for almost like sucking and and getting the blood flow and the oxygen through. Um, and when that seal goes, it's letting more air through, and a person's going to be really, really tired and unable to do physical things the way they could, like walking up the stairs or up the hill or whatever. So yeah, and this is the wonder of medicine, that they can do things like this. It's a routine operation nowadays, thankfully, which is
Definitely
great.
know what the conflict was at the time for him. Not that I could talk to him about it, but yeah, and I wouldn't have known that now, but after working with you it's very clear to me what caused that
Yeah,
for
sure.
him. Yeah,
Circumstances and relationships every single time,
yeah, absolutely.
uh, and perception, how we perceive it or feel about it. So
Yeah.
those are the three
And
main
I
things.
think that story of the canary really highlights just how important these relationships are.
Absolutely, because if someone said to me, "Oh, my canary's died," I go, "Oh, that's a shame. Get another canary." No, but that woman, that was a life.
Yeah.
That was a late husband.
Even
Personal.
talking now again, I've got the truth chills right through that. That's incredible.
Absolutely. It's personal.
Yeah.
This is why there's no general solution. This is why I'm always looking at the time frame. When did the symptoms start? And what just changed before the symptoms started? And I'm asking specific questions because I know the type of cause. I don't know the specifics for that person at that time, but I know the type of questions I would be asking to find out what it was specifically for them. And obviously, I have to understand who they are. That's the important part.
Mm.
If I don't understand the person, then I don't understand what's important to them. What's their values? What's their beliefs? What themes are they running? What's the common themes? And maybe abandonment themes, or separation themes, or self-worth themes, or anger themes, or injustice, unfairness themes, or whatever it is. Maybe all of them.
If we go on to, I mean, I think that's given the idea around the first one, just for the time that we'll be on here.
Yeah,
An
sure.
hour, an hour is sort of nice for
Yeah,
anyone
that's a
to.
lot said there with that one.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much you could have said with that one. So I'll just go to the second one. But again, I can give anyone details of Bill and how to get in touch with Bill. Um, if you're happy with that, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. If you pass it on,
Lovely.
Jackie. And I just want to also mention before we leave the heart and all these sort of things is the high blood pressure. Now, the high blood pressure doesn't cause a stroke. Okay. Now uh, it's a brain relay that controls specific organs in the body that's got more edema, more water in that brain relay, um, always at healing. And that water is trying to be squeezed out to be reabsorbed back into the body at the healing crisis. And this is why black coffee or stimulative herbs or anything like this um, is really, really good at certain times. So the person's not in a restful state. So the high blood pressure, you can get high blood pressure from one part of the kidneys, the three different parts, but one part, and that's about it's a water fluidity conflict, a drowning conflict or fear of drowning. or a close call for them, or someone they care about, or someone they witnessed, or it could be the fear of going under, literally, or the fear of flood, or just water, fluid. It could be living with an alcoholic partner. That's the fluid. And all the money's gone down the pan. So there's lots of different ways. So that could raise the high blood pressure. The one in the kidneys will keep it constantly raised. Okay. You can also have the overwhelmed conflict of the myocardium with the heart muscle. That will raise the blood pressure as well, but depending on how big or not the overwhelmed conflict is, that'll change the blood pressure. And you also have another one connected to one part of the adrenals. Same again, that's overwhelm or unbearable stress. And that can raise the blood pressure temporarily depending on the stress. When you bring the stress level down, the blood pressure goes down with it. But it doesn't cause strokes, as people say. It doesn't cause heart attacks, absolutely not. So, sorry, Jackie.
I was thinking there is though, I remember you talking about, because a lot of people will say, do you drink enough water? And your thing about that, if you want to just mention that, because yeah, I think we're told 3 litres a day or something.
Whatever floats your boat, really. Whatever you feel is right for you. But if you've got a big healing issue going on, or you're in physical pain, I would suggest drinking less water.
Mm.
Because excess water, seeing excess water, is going to amplify the pain symptoms, it's going to amplify swelling, it's going to amplify any symptoms where there's inflammation in the body. Inflammation is always healing symptom, always. Now, we can go in and out of healing all the time, but inflammation is always healing. And I know there's a lot of people out there saying inflammation is the cause of this or that, but I'll pass on that one. So anything with itis at the end, the diagnosis, cystitis, laryngitis, and bronchitis, and everything, it's all itis is inflammation, it's healing.
I was out with a friend the other night and she's just started taking statins. She's been on them for 2 weeks and she can hardly move. Every joint hurts. So she's going to stop taking them.
The problematic for the liver, because they disrupt the manufacture of cholesterol in the liver. And the liver produces at least 80% of our cholesterol. And the other best cholesterol to take in is the LDL, the low density lipoprotein, that they tell you is the bad stuff. That's the sticky stuff. And if someone's in and out of territory loss conflicts, they're going to break down a little bit of tissue in the coronary arteries, then it's going to be refilled with the cholesterol, which is the good guy. Cholesterol is the good guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think there's a great book by Dr. Ron Frosdale many years ago called The Cholesterol Myth. I know there's a few. I don't really read nowadays. So, but I do remember that one, and that's good.
I've seen different meme type things or whatever about cholesterol, because we are told keep your cholesterol low, but it's so wrong, isn't it?
It's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. Keep your conflicts low. And don't fuss about your cholesterol, honestly. And the statins do disrupt the production of the cholesterol. Cholesterol is like the repair. It's great for repairing gaps and holes, and and tissue. It's really, really, really good stuff. So, and again, when someone gets a diagnosis of anything, it's going to create fear. And we have to reduce the fear in any way, shape, or form we can, and just get better at our relationships. Because relationships are really, really hard, and no one teaches us how to do this stuff. And there's too many moving parts because there's too many different people with different past stories.
Mm.
And triggering everyone is me triggering everyone else, and so it goes on. We have this foolish notion as humanoids that we should all be the same, which is crazy. And then we get caught up in the judgment track, and that's so destructive. So, yeah, sorry, Jackie.
No, that's great. Honestly, thank you. I'm sure there's a lot more could have said around that, but anyway, type 2 diabetes, a condition where the body doesn't use insulin properly, leading to high blood sugar levels, is the second most common ailment in the UK, it said.
Not always, but generally speaking, they only find out if they're testing blood sugar, because really it's hypoglycemia. So it's low blood sugar. And the solution is always craving sweet foods. It's not so much the insulin, it's more about the blood sugar per se. And the conflict for that is either fear, disgust, depending if you're in the feminine realm or the masculine realm, fear, disgust for the feminine realm, or a resistance, reluctance, conflict for a masculine person. So it gets a bit complicated. It depends whether right-handed, left-handed, and depending on the hormone level, then that will change. Yeah, that will change sites in the brain and change symptoms. So the hypoglycemia, Cadbury's will tell you, uh, you know, their products are good for you. If you didn't suffer from any form of hypoglycemia at any time, we can get in and out of this all the time, you wouldn't be craving the chocolate and the sweet stuff and everything else. But it's okay. It's no big deal. Now, the only problem is if someone becomes, seriously overweight, then obviously that can become a problem. But yeah, it's no big deal. If you take me into a cake shop, I'll be first in queue.
Yeah. I mean, I actually, I'd find it very difficult to go a day without anything sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
It's
would it be
no,
good for me to go a few days without anything sweet?
that just
I
means
mean,
that more
I get
emotions
to
are going to come
crave
up.
it then. If I think I can't have it, I then want it even more.
Yeah, of course, because we're already trained to
I
crave
know.
sugar and sweet stuff. It starts very young. Now, and it is a form of suppressing some emotions as well. Most people crave more chocolate and sweet stuff and they're having a harder time. It's fine. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. The other type is the type 1. And by the way, when they talk about diabetes and it can cause this symptom and that symptom, your eyesight, your feet, and all this, that is utter tripe.
Is it?
So, but if it's in your pamphlet that you're handing out to people and fear-mongering people with, when you give them a diagnosis of diabetes, guess what's going to happen? You're programming their mind to have separate conflicts connected to their eyes, fear from behind, fear from the front, or for the feet, the periosteum, brutal separation, or not being able to walk away, run away, whatever it is. You're programming them with conflicts.
Mm.
There's a lady I know, and I worked with on and off over the years, and she's had type 1 diabetes, where they have to inject insulin 3 times a day for 30 plus years. And every time she has to go and get tested, she really resents having to keep her driving license. She hates the system. She's one of us. And they are shocked and stunned that she's no other symptoms. And when they
So
say,
she's working on herself as well at the same time then.
yeah, and
Good.
because of diabetes type 1, it's been running for so long, the insulin dependence, so to speak, you don't want to resolve it because you've got a massive hypo. It could be severely challenging. So you don't want to go there. So, but the medical people are shocked that she doesn't have any other symptoms. She said, you know what? I don't believe your symptoms. And
Brilliant.
you should burn those pamphlets because they're fear-mongering people.
Absolutely. Do you know, Bill, I haven't been to the doctor for ages, but I did have to go the other day. I had a little lump on my leg and I just wanted to be sure it was nothing. How stupid. But anyway, she wasn't worried about it at all, but I'd just rather get it checked. Because it hadn't got any bigger or smaller, but I just wanted to. Anyway, but sat in the waiting room and it was depressing. It was all dark bricks all the way round. But the
Okay.
only posters that they had up was 1 in 4 will get this, 1 in 2 will be expected to get this. All the thing, not one positive poster in that room. And then when I got through to the doctor, I said, gosh, that's so, because I mean, the you couldn't expect the receptionist to be overly happy. And she definitely wasn't. But she's seeing ill people all day long, ill, miserable people all day long. And there's not one thing in that room to brighten anybody up.
I don't know how to
So,
do it. I really don't. You know, it's tough. And people go there maybe a little bit anxious, fearful, concerned. So they're already off balance. And
yeah,
then that hits you and you go, oh my gosh, you know. But
awful, to be
I
honest.
get it. It's a it's a money making machine. Now they also do some great work, some life saving work, stunning work.
Yeah,
Uh, but it is a money making machine, and that's just how it is. Um, big pharma control, big part of the world. So anyway, different story.
I know, but let's hope things are changing. We'll just quickly touch on, um, I mean, there's so much more on all of this that we could say, or that you could say. I know we could, but yeah, it'd be great if anyone's listening to this and they want to know more, then I can give you Bill's contact details.
Yeah, or ask any questions, Jackie. We'll do some more.
Absolutely, and we can come back on, and in fact, yes, that's a brilliant idea. If any questions, we can come back on in a week or so, perhaps, and
Absolutely, absolutely.
lovely. That'd be ideal. So the third one we just said we'd touch on is depression, a common mental health condition affecting mood, energy, and daily functioning. And that's
Male,
apparently the third most common at the moment.
yes. The amount of people I've heard of on antidepressants is huge. And again, I feel for people. I really, really, really feel for people. I don't understand how they manage without this knowledge. I really don't get it, you know, or some other discipline, or you know, it's all about connection. The like-minded souls. That's the most beautiful thing. Um, and isolation and separation is huge in our society. And anything we can do to connect is beautiful. So the depression for a male type person, there's 4 potential causes. I only ever look for one, but there's 4 potentials. Uh, it could be a fear in your territory for a masculine person, or it could be a lost conflict. I always look for that one. Always go there first. Or it could be a marking conflict or an anger conflict. Either one of those 4. So I'm always looking for what just changed before the symptoms started the first time. Now, if someone's been on and off, in and out of depression for many years, then what happens after the first conflict has happened, when they've been depressed for whatever period of time, then they just have to step on a track, maybe on the lost theme or the anger theme or whatever it is, and they can immediately, it's like the light switch gone off and they're on the floor depressed. The lost theme is huge in our society, huge.
Yeah.
For a masculine person, even more so. For a feminine person, now the thing is, sometimes it's dangerous to take someone out of depression, especially quickly. And this is where antidepressants can be really problematic. They take people out of depression too quickly and they get into a little place. Dr. Hamer called it the telepathic window, where they're not depressed, but they're going into more manic. Now, before they were depressed, couch potato, and they may be talking about ending their life, but they won't because they're in couch potato mode. They're not going to take action, usually, okay? But if they take, same as especially the Prozac in the early days, and even the second one, it took them years and years and years of complaints for the suicide rate with the original Prozac to change it, to change some of the ingredients to make it less deadly. It's terrible stuff. Now, it takes them into that telepathic window too quickly. And they get to a place where they're not even here. It's also the place where most people are feeling better than they have felt for a long time. And they're more hopeful of the future. And people around them are going, oh, wow, he's in a better place. And then they commit suicide. Because they're not themselves. So it's almost like, shall I go and kill myself or go to the supermarket and get a loaf of bread? And that's the rationale where they are.
Yeah.
That they're not necessarily doing it from the pain, although some do, but not many. They're doing it from that place of non-reality. They're just not connected to the ground at all.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when someone goes into the more manic, then they can switch from the manic to the depressed and keep stepping on track from manic and depressed. For a woman for depression, just single depression, not manic, depressed, then you're looking for same type of conflicts, yeah, but you're looking for a scare fright type situation, a fear, scare fright, that sort of thing, or a sexual conflict, or an anger conflict, or identity conflict, or a marking conflict, like marking your space, your territory, like your dogs do. You know, they've marked the space. And in human beings, in our psyche, we do the same, but not, physically, you know.
Mm.
So either one of those. And she could also have a predator type conflict added to them as well. So either one of those is the one I'm looking for. And but if the masculine person especially has been in depression for a while, tread gently. This is when it's really, really good to, you don't want to help them go and make up with someone, forgive someone to resolve that lost conflict. I just don't want to do that because it has that knock-on effect in the coronary arteries. It's not good, really not good. But anything we can do at a practical level, where it's connection with other people, helping them feel less alone, anything we can do to help them be more outward rather than inward.
Yeah.
Because the depressed person closes in on themselves. And it's super, super hard. It's a horrendous thing. You know, it's been a big theme of mine on and off through my life, but I understand this stuff now. And I can go into on the floor depression that quick.
Wow.
But I know exactly what I'm looking for. And I can get myself back out. And you can reverse it that quick. Okay. But if people don't know, they don't know, and it doesn't always come on quickly. Sometimes we have to look at circumstances and almost always go to the loss and see if we can diminish that in some way. And this is where being in nature, being with other people, super, super important, even though it's hard initially for a person who's depressed. And being in nature, exercise, doing anything, a new hobby, doing things for other people, super important. Become part of a volunteer group or something, and helping them feel connected and useful and having a purpose again. Super,
Yes.
super important if they're able to. Yeah.
That's the thing, if you're very depressed. So I'm fortunate, I really believe I've only been depressed once in my life, and that was not long after my second son was born. And then you not only got depression, which could have been, I guess, or I don't know, but then you got the guilt because you got a young baby. And
more
then
complicated.
and then you really pile it on yourself. And then you think, when I come out of that, I thought I never want, and that's when I started thinking about what I really did want, so did the happiness course and the
Fantastic.
Ho'oponopono and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
never wanted to be there again because that was just, crying at the very slightest thing.
And that's what it's all about. Practical solutions are the best solutions, if at all possible.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, that helps us diminish how we feel. There's nothing harder than a place of inward,
Hmm. Absolutely.
because
Because
our
then you're
energies are closing
criticizing
in.
yourself so badly.
It's
Yeah.
so hard. It's so hard. Um, yeah, definitely.
And it is very common. I know it's very common. And I've got 3 friends that have lost their children through suicide. And my gosh, you would never wish that on anyone because then they have such conflict within themselves as well. And they're the most loveliest ladies I know.
And this is the really, really hard part. I so feel for people, Jackie, because the people that blame themselves
Mm.
wrecks their life.
Absolutely.
But just remember what I've said, it's no one's fault. I remember I was in an AA meeting many, many years ago, going back 20 odd years ago, and the chap sitting beside me had been back out there drinking again, and, you know, whole life, as usual, fallen to bits. Wife left, children left, home gone, job gone, everything gone, head gone. And he managed to get back into AA at the time, and day by day he's getting better and better and better. Okay. He was seriously depressed when he came in. I was sitting beside him one night, lovely guy. I said, Bill, we got to go out for a coffee on Saturday. We keep promising, let's meet on Saturday. Okay. This is Thursday night. 2 hours later, he hung himself.
God.
Okay. I was shocked. Like everyone was shocked. What? And he was sitting sharing in the meeting about how good his life was. He got to that telepathic window through the drugs when he was feeling so good. No one will ever understand that if they don't understand the cause. And I say this to help people give themselves a big, big break, because no one understands, not even doctors understand this, not even psychiatrists understand this, but Dr. Hamer did. And this is why I don't look anywhere else, because all the answers I've got are there.
He was an absolute, dedicating his life to doing that. And yeah,
There were 6 attempts in his life, Jackie.
yes.
He fought nearly 800 court cases, put in prison twice. Once because he refused to give chemo to a patient, and 2 for advising a fellow doctor who called him up on the phone when his phone was tapped, he didn't know, to ask him for a German new medicine advice for one of his patients who couldn't help, and struck him off with it.
That's because it would have put the pharmaceutical business out of business
It was
if
the
people
biggest
knew.
threat ever.
Yeah.
And they also stole his work, and they use it in the upper echelons in Israel. They never use chemo for cancer.
No.
They do it by German new medicine.
Mhm.
Only in the upper echelons, not the working class people, so to speak.
We'll see a better future.
Absolutely. Dr. Hammer sacrificed his life, it's his passion, and he's one of those geniuses, and there's been many geniuses through our lifetimes, and he was one for sure. So,
Honestly, thank you for this, Bill, today. And we will do this again next week if you're free at this time next week. And
I'll make sure I'm free, Jackie.
Brilliant. So if anyone's got any questions, do put the questions in.
Yeah, please.
We'll go through them next week. But there was still a couple of things we wanted to talk about today, so we'll definitely do that next week as well.
Yeah, let's
Loads of
catch
love,
up.
Bill. Thank you.
And you, Jackie. Bye for now.
Bye.